Hey, it's Callan from Authentic Lifestyle Design, chilling down here by the river. Check out the view I've got. Really tranquil little spot down here. Anyhow, today I want to talk to you about minimalism and the positive benefits that minimalism can have on your life. So to begin with, minimalism is basically what it sounds like. It's minimizing different things in your life. And mainly when we talk about minimalism, we're talking about minimalizing the amount of consumerism you do and not buying a super crazy expensive house or a super crazy expensive car or spending ridiculous amounts of money on holidays. Minimalism is to go back to more simple roots and to derive your happiness from things that are not external to yourself, all right? Minimalism is about reducing your expenses. And why that matters is because if you can live a comfortable, happy life that requires less money, that requires you to spend less, you're going to be a lot happier, but you're also going to be a lot more free. Right? Like if it took $500,000 a year in order for you to meet your standards of happiness based on the consumerist aspects of life, and it took someone else $50,000, then, you know, that person with the 50,000 has a much lower bar of happiness that they need to achieve in order to be fulfilled. And minimalism really offers some benefits here. And some of the principles and some of the practices can have a monumental impact in your life. And if you think about it, consumerism works where people buy things they don't always necessarily need. So yeah, we all need shelter, so that's a house. We all need transportation, so that's a car or paying some other way to get around. You know, we all need food. We all need to meet all these basic essentials, but the means of doing so can vary dramatically. So I just had some bloke coming and talking to me, but I'll keep going. So yeah, in order to live a minimalist life, you can live so much more simply because you need so many less things. I mean, for example, me coming and walking down here and looking at this cost me nothing. You know, financially it's free to walk down here, and it's a really peaceful, nice area where I could just sit down here and be at peace. There is a path over there, so I had some people just walk over and talk to me, which is why I had to stop the video. And just making sure I could actually sit down here, which I assumed I could because there's no sign saying I can't wander down here. And asking if I was going to swim in the river, which I think I'd freeze. It's like 10 degrees. Right. But to continue on the tangent I was going on, if you can live the lower amount of money a year you need to live, the better, right? Because then all of a sudden, if you're chasing freedom, which is something I'm definitely chasing, the threshold of that freedom is lower. The same with retirement. There's a thing called the rule of 25, which is you need about 25 times what you'll spend in a year invested in order to live forever on that amount of money, right? So 25 times your annual expenses will give you freedom for life. Now, if you're spending 40 grand a year, that's $1 million. That's a lot of money, but it's doable. If that's 200 grand a year, now we're looking at $5 million. So you can see how that barrier changes depending on the amount of money you need. So when we look at minimalism, okay, it can really vary, it can really depend, because the lower cost of living you need to live, the better. And therefore, not getting trapped in that consumerist rat race, because the rat race isn't just the 9 to 5. Some people do the 9 to 5 and love it, and some people do the 9 to 5 and they're minimalist. The rat race is more so getting up every day to go and do things you don't really want to do in order to make money to match a lifestyle. And for some people, they could escape the rat race now if they became a minimalist. You know, there's people out there making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and they spend all of it and they've got nothing to show at the end of the year. Because they're going out and partying expensive VIP rooms and overpriced alcohol and all the rest of it, right? And they're spending $1,000 in a night or whatever they go out and spend. I don't recommend that. That's not an optimal way to live. But if it's what you want to do, it's what you want to do. Only thing is, the bar to entry, or the barrier you have to climb to, is a lot higher. right? Because it depends. Do you value your time? Do you enjoy what you're doing with your time? Because when you look at minimalism and the way of living simply, you can derive happiness out of far simpler things. And, for example, coming down here and sitting, or coming down here with someone you love and just soaking it in, maybe bringing a bit of food down. Food's another one, you can go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a fancy dinner, or you can spend $20, or you can spend $10 and get stuff and cook it at home. And there's no right or wrong. It's just, what life do you want to live? And minimalism, it does give you freedom, especially if you can live on less money than what you earn. It gives you a tremendous amount of freedom, right? And I'll make a video soon talking about how much money do you really need, because many people think to retire they need crazy amounts of money. Not really the case, okay? You don't need as much money as you think you need if you can embrace principles like minimalism. And there's tremendous power in that. So simplifying your life, simplifying your craving for fancy stuff. For example, look at a house for how it functions, right? A house is a roof over your head. It's a place that you can call yours, and it's a place that gives you, security, and it's like a home, right? Food is stuff you put in your body to keep you alive, and ideally you want to put good stuff into your body. So it might be worth spending a bit more for good food, for nutritious, healthy food, but there's going to be a threshold to that. Where could you spend, there's going to be a threshold where you could spend too much money and then all of a sudden it's no longer worth it, okay? So it really depends. And yeah, weigh out the pros and cons of all these things. Maybe you want to eat out really fancy, but you need more money to do that. And are you going to sacrifice time to earn that money doing something you don't want to do? Because if so, then on average, you might not be as happy as if you lived more simply. Now let's talk about cars. What's a car really? To go from A to B. It's a way of transportation, right? You want a car that's reliable, a car that works, sure. But you don't need to spend $100,000 on some fancy sports car. What's the point? Sure, it goes from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds, but what does that matter when the speed limit's 90 or 60? It's just a flex. It's just to show people, hey, look how good I am. And it's a flex. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Or maybe you really, really love cars and you're really passionate about doing them up and having them. But a lot of that is a flex for a lot of people. Same with buying a massive mansion that's way too big for what you need it for. You're just flexing, right? And then you got to clean it. And you got to pay insurance on it. You got to fix things when they go wrong. Both with a car and with a house. And if you've got a more expensive house or a more expensive car, when something goes wrong, it costs more money to fix it, right? And a lot of people do what we call keeping up with the Joneses, which is, the neighbors buy maybe not a Ferrari, but they buy a nice car, they buy a Tesla or something, and then you go, oh, I gotta go buy a Tesla, right? And if you've watched my spiral dynamics videos, this really hits people at orange, or when they're straight into the materialist paradigm. And yeah, a lot of it is trying to show off, buying a nice car. And the difference is, are you buying the car for you, or the house for you, or are you buying it to impress people? Because if you're buying it to impress people, one, it might slightly impress people, but really, you're spending a lot of time to impress people that you might not even like. You might not even like the neighbors down the street that bought a Tesla, right? There's so many variables to this. And minimalism just provides you with freedom. Because if you make good money and you don't spend it all, you have money left. Then if you don't like your job, you can leave. You can go and get another job. Or you can work part-time. Or you can travel more. Whatever it is you want to do, it depends on your life. But that game of just chasing more money and more things is when you're smack bang in the rat race. All right? And it's not going to fulfill you. You'll get these little blasts of dopamine, right? You get little blasts of fulfillment. You go buy a $300,000 car, and for 2 weeks you might be soaring. You might be pulling in all the attention and all the success, and when there's no one around loving, flying that thing down the road at ridiculous speeds. It might be fun. But after a couple of weeks, it's going to become normal. It'll just become normal. Because humans settle. That's why we keep balance. Because if you do stuff that's constantly stimulating and you do that all the time, eventually it'll stop stimulating you. Your brain will build up a tolerance to it, right? And then it won't stimulate it like it used to. So you can reduce that by doing more simple things and being content with more simple things. That's where something like minimalism provides tremendous benefits. And it's something that I encourage anyone listening to this video to look into. Because what's the alternative? It's chasing a bunch of paper. And why? Do you want freedom? Do you want to show off? And if you do want to show off, then that's the stage you're at in your life, and maybe you do need to go and show off, and you do need to work ridiculous hours for good money to show off. And maybe you have to learn those lessons, and minimalism might come later in your life, or maybe never at all. But for those of you that feel trapped, that feel like you're working to sustain a lifestyle, and this gets harder as you get older, or as you get in more debt, because debt is really something that'll cripple your life. It could have negative impacts, okay? And really, I recommend looking into solving that problem as quickly as possible, because it's an unnecessary problem. Different if you're broke, then the mission is literally making more money to be comfortable. But if you are comfortable, if you're making $70,000, $80,000 a year and you're struggling, then look at minimalism. Look at simplifying your life. You know, I look at it like this. Wouldn't matter how much I make. It's having a house that serves me, a house that has the things I need, you know, transportation that I need, experiences that I need, and be careful what you spend your money on. Don't go spend hundreds of dollars to show off in some nightclub to impress a bunch of probably fake people that don't care. You know, if you start throwing money around and buying everyone drinks, of course people will come, and of course you'll be popular. But what happens when that money runs out? Who stays and who goes, right? There's so many other variables that you can consider. So, if you gained any value from that, my little introduction to minimalism, give the video a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, share it with people that you think will be useful, share it with people that are trapped in the rat race, that might want to escape, that might want a way out, because minimalism is one of the fundamentals to that. And overall, enjoy the rest of your day.